Good to go. Don't worry about it. We're good to go. Stream was interrupted, but we're good to go. All right, go ahead and sign under your thing there. So, thank God nobody's watching yet. Nobody's watching yet. Just there you go. Oops. Okay. All right. You got the chat box and all that kind of good stuff there. Okay. Mark Goggin is here. Boy, it's good to see these folks. Can you see everybody going through there? Yeah, fantastic. All right. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Wunderbar. Yeah. I was. Guys, if you ever have to deal with a director, just want you to know it's not always the easiest thing, but you got to show a lot of patience, a lot of concern, a lot of care if you want to deal with these camera people, these directors. So, guys, again, thank you all for being here. For good God, it's only been a few years, right? So, thank you guys for being here. Mark, both the Marks, Spice and Goggin, have been around for a very long time. So let me tell you what's going on. What's happening is I don't have a screen in front of me. The old laptop ate the big one. And since we are in the shop, I've got my camera lady who's actually in the chat watching the comments go through. So what's going to end up having to happen is she'll have to relay to me everything. So, but again, thank you guys for being here. So, how many folks we got so far? It's just like OCD. 11 already. You guys have no lives at all.
Oh my God, this is the kind of camera girl that you always wanted.
Man, have we been through camera people? Good gracious. Good gracious. 11 people. There you go. You absolutely right. Oh, okay. All right, so yeah, let's get started. So if there's 11 people in here already, that means that these are some old timers that are coming in, and pretty awesome. Actually, here, give me the phone. Let me have the phone. Let me see the phone.
There's a delay.
I know there's a little bit of delay. That's okay. Oh yeah. Where are the comments? All right, don't worry about it. All right. They love me. Look at them bare knees. That's all sexy looking. Look at that. Like all Victorian. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Hey, Trent, from Justin Goodman. Stay hydrated.
Justin Goodman, yes. We got to get another laptop. Because I used to, so when we used to be in the shop, what would happen is Mark Blosser, back in the day, generously handed me like a big TV, sent me a big freaking TV and some of the stuff that we were doing so I could actually see all the particular comments. Oh, what are you laughing at? Who's aggravating me?
Mark Spice says, I'm pretty sure that those names would be banned in many countries.
You shut your mouth. Look. They're just jealous of what they don't have. And them's the sexy knees. What y'all talking about? So, like I said, guys, thank you all so much for coming to the live stream. Like I said, my new camera lady, Miss K, is handling stuff, and she's got us on a pretty rigorous schedule. And so if you don't know and you haven't seen the stuff on Patreon, like I said, we've been doing a couple of updates. So let me bring you up to speed on what's been going on over the past couple of years, the fast version. So, when I originally got started in YouTube, I filmed when I had nothing else to do. When I was broke and there was no work, we filmed. And the great thing is, the reason we haven't been filming over the past couple of years is because we've been super busy. At one point, I had 5 employees working here. In fact, this is, and I don't know, probably none of you have ever seen this. This is actually my garage that we ended up enclosing to make into our leather room. That's why we got this big machine here behind me. We started, of course, we got them with Master of Arms, and what a huge disappointment that I didn't get to be a big TV star. That sucked. But being in that particular realm led me to start working on some film projects. And what I mean is, like, not as an actor, but word got around that I could make stuff. And so what ended up happening is that these movie productions would call me and ask me to build a latch or some, very particular item, and then found out that they couldn't get it anywhere else. So we became kind of the go-to guys here in Georgia for making hardware, and that led to all sorts of other cool props. And man, the money was great because they would call and we would get stuff done overnight, and it was fantastic. And we would still be doing that very lucrative work now had it not been for the film strike. And boy, did they shoot themselves in the taint on that one. During the strike, most of the prop masters I had worked with, I'll say 50 to 75% of them were unemployed during the strike. I mean, they were scrounging. A lot of them were trying to hold out, but they were going to work at Lowe's and Home Depot. And then they won the strike. And the moment that they won the strike, every film company that could picked up and took their productions to England and New Zealand, because the strike now made it more expensive to do business in the U.S. than it did going overseas. So it's one of those situations where, we have a problem here? What do you? My director's having a hissy. Oh my God, there was a spider. Oh my God. Okay. Yes, sleet nor snow, hell nor heaven, but let a spider be somewhere. But anyway, so the moment it was done, I mean, they flew the coop. And so now, I regularly call on my folks. I don't think any of the prop masters that I know are now working. So it is like dead, es finito, done. We have a question?
Justin Goodman asked, whatever happened to those giant kegs you were making going around with?
The giant kegs. Oh, great. So that was for the Disney series Kindred. And they all made it into the movie. In fact, if you go and watch Kindred, one of the coolest things that we built, we did so much for Kindred. We did a lot for that movie. In the movie or the series or whatever, there's a giant one that's made out of oak that was the tobacco barrel. It's in there. So all of that stuff went to the film. So if my director didn't know, we ended up we had to do almost like 30 full-size whiskey barrels, and we had to strap them in like wood to make them look old. Yeah. Oh, it's so crazy. That was so cool. I hated to give those away. I don't know what I would have done with all those barrels, but they were so cool. It was just like Donkey Kong madness. So, yeah. But so what ended up there is that, the film stuff went away, and man, that sucked. That was terrible. That was a lot of really good money. It was a lot of fun too. Being called with a severe problem, somebody like in a tight, with this unrealistic deadline, man, it was, I love that stuff. It was pretty awesome. So, good stuff. But that has pretty much gone the way of the dodo. We ended up actually making a booty ton of knives. And let's see. And you guys have seen them. These were our colonial knives. Jeff White used to make very similar stuff. This was in Dixie Gun Works, and we kind of stepped in. And I think we did over 3,000 of these types of blades. And the terrible thing is we moved a lot of these knives. We did business with some of the biggest knife companies out there. We did business with Frost Cutlery, Smoky Mountain Knife Works. And I got to tell you guys, the production knife industry, which is completely different from the custom knife industry, is a weird place to do business, because on one hand, you're competing directly with Pakistan and China for cheap knives and things like that. But we moved a bunch of knives, and it was a good deal. But the business end of it kind of petered out. I hate that, but it was very labor intensive. You know, again, one of the reasons that we built this leather room is because of all our sheaths. I mean, you know, we were doing about 100 knives in 7 days, and of course we were custom making the sheaths, and there's just no way that you can hand stitch that number of knives. So that's why we ended up getting the clicker. We got this machine, and we had to set everything up to do the work in here, and most importantly, that's why we put the temperature controls in here, because whether it was sweltering or it was freezing, it's very difficult to do sheath work with your hands all messed up or you're dying of thirst. So again, all that went really well. It's nothing on our part that messed up. It's just that the business ebbed and flowed. And what happened here in the past year and a half that was of such note is that we had, after COVID, we had the Florida Federation of Fairs, which is the governing body for all these giant state and county fairs that go on in Florida. There's a bunch of them. And the boss man came by and said, hey, we need you to get on the road. And I'm like, look, we travel, we do our little demo, even though we have the Forge wagon, which is a really good demo, and I'm a halfway decent performer. But I just didn't realize how many of those fairs are out there and what the demand was for these traditional crafters. Because what happened is that back in the 80s when I grew up, especially when I was there at Andersonville with Jay, man, you couldn't throw a rock without smacking a hippie that was weaving a basket or throwing a pot. They were just everywhere because all the hippies from back in the day did the crafts. They had the macrame beads and the dreadlocks and they smell bad and all that kind of stuff, but they still were doing crafts, and they just went away. They've all aged out. And so now there's kind of a huge gap for real performances out there. And so we've been building on that. So now we have 2 blacksmithing rigs. We have a cooking rig, which you guys will get to see. Hopefully we're going to get it set up and we're going to cook on them, and they're super awesome. We have a woodworker rig with a wooden lathe, and it's got a cool clockwork power system I'll have to show you guys. So we've got some really, really awesome stuff. And so now what's happening is that for the first time in 7 years, I don't have any on-site employees, which is a whole thing in itself. That's really weird after all these years of making sure there was a paycheck for everybody on Friday. I still kind of suffer from that boss man panic because we're not bringing in as much money, but we're not spending any money. So I keep trying to figure out why I still have money at the end of the week. So it's been a very different adjustment. But now in October, actually our first show is going to be in August. I'll be going to Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, outside of Springfield, Missouri, to the Washington Town and Country Show. That'll be our first show. And then October, man, we're going to be in Georgia, South Carolina. And then from November till March, we'll be in Florida. So that 6-month block is really going to be where we make all of our money. And so on the other 6 months of the season, what do we do? And that's where my director, Miss Kay, came in. She says, hey, you've already got the YouTube channel. If you've got the time and you're not having to, fight employees, why don't you push for the channel? Because we're, in YouTube terms, 100,000 is where you get your first play button, and that changes things for you in the algorithm. Mr. John Switzer over at Black Bear has done great. So I was like, let's give it another shot. And so here we are. We have a question.
Rep from South Carolina says, is blacksmithing aging out? Forged and fire seems to make it popular for a while, but not sure if young blacksmiths are coming into the trade. I have a newbie, but I'm older, so no help for me. Sure,
and that was Rep? Rep from South Carolina. That is a great question, because the forged and fire effect was very real. In fact, you see it now fading, specifically in anvil prices. Forged in fire doubled old anvil prices, and it also made cast iron anvils expensive. Back in Andersonville, if a 50-pound anvil, $2 a pound was a fair price. If it was a cast iron anvil, I might give you 15 cents a pound. And now, of course, it is, you know, the prices are pretty much the same because everybody's just after an anvil. So let me answer your question like this, because the short answer is no. I don't think it's going to have that much of effect as far as who's coming into the craft. Because as far as blacksmithing goes, it was, you know, Forged in Fire certainly had a bunch of people that started out on a forge that were making knives. But these were hobbyists. The business of blacksmithing, the reason that I do this, it's a business. And it's very different from going in the backyard and making a couple of crappy knives. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see far less day traders, so to speak, in the craft. But if you ever have anybody that has real talent and real particular passion, I think you're going to see that those number of people stays pretty steady. And I mean, you know, most of those guys are fly by night, which again is going to be great for us, because I'm just sitting back waiting to buy up all this equipment that everybody bought, the Mr. Volcano forge and their anvil, and they spent, you know, thousands of dollars, and now they're going to burn it for $100, $200, and I'm sitting and waiting patiently on Facebook Marketplace.
Another question. Mark Spice says, at some point, can you do a bit of a rundown on the demonstrating? I've been involved in the ECW reenacting and been making some stuff for them, but any tips would be useful. Don't ask why ECW reenacting is a thing over here on the correct side of it.
So American Civil War, and he said, and that's Mark. Yeah, that's right. Mark's from the UK, isn't he? Mark, aren't you from the UK? If I'm not mistaken. So I got to tell you guys this, because Mark. So, you know, I remember these guys. I mean, I've never met Mark face to face, but one of the live streams that we had done in the shop. So, you know, I watch a lot of BBC. You know. And there was one character in Blackadder, Baldrick, and Mark. I thought almost somebody, because I'm not used to the accent, so of course, I mean, I know that the two were different, but it was, I promise you, I was trying to maintain a straight face when Mark was talking. It's like, it's Baldrick. he's come for me. That's a great question as far as it goes with the reenactment and the demonstrating. And
That's one of the better names you've been given.
yeah, for real. So the thing is with demonstrating, and I've got to make a couple of different bends here, because this can be a simple answer and it can be a complicated answer, and then there's a business answer. So the simple answer is a demonstration is simply just getting out there like a reenactment and doing something, you know, and most of your general public is not going to know the difference between. You could mix 200 years worth of history and nobody would know the difference. At least that's how it is here in the US, because people just usually aren't that into it. It's the people that are doing the reenacting. So when you're at a reenactment, the standard that you have to do your work as a reenactor is actually higher than when you perform in public, because in reenactments, you're going to have what we call the stitch counters. And these are the guys that are retired that have nothing better to do. And when they go out there, we call them stitch counters because they're checking the number of stitches in your collar to make sure it's period correct. And no, don't get me wrong, they certainly have their place. But when I started, and as you know, I started in American Civil War reenacting in Andersonville, you know, the reenactments were usually a closed event. I mean, these were people that enjoyed this reenactment and they got together. Andersonville was an event where the reenactors got to mix with the public. And so you kind of got to figure out exactly when your demonstration comes up, who you're demonstrating to. So that's your first thing, right? If it's going to be other reenactors, you're probably going to have a higher standard to obtain to make sure your equipment, everything's right. If it's to the general public, you could put a rubber chicken for bellows, and people would go, oh, that's amazing. I didn't know they had them back then. And the other question is, when you get into demonstrating, you need to ask yourself why you're doing it. Are you getting into demonstrating just because you enjoy it and you want to go have some camaraderie with some friends in funny clothes? Are you getting out there for a business, or are you getting out there for educational purposes? You really kind of need to define what it is that you're doing. Because for years at a lot of these events, we had what they call the tapping grunts. And these were the traditional demonstrators that, again, they'd tap, somebody would come by, they grunt, and that was the whole show. The reason I was able to go as far as I did is because I was going to these public events, not the closed reenactments, but these events where the public was present, and I put on a show. So understand something, that doing a show comes before whatever you're doing the show in drag, right? So if you're doing a show, doesn't matter if it's in Civil War, medieval reenactment, what they call the SCA here in the U.S., the Society for Creative Anachronism, the performance was its thing. And when I went to a show, I found that I was valuable as a performer, but I simply chose the flavor of blacksmithing, if that makes sense. So if you're going to get out there and demonstrate, you need to have a framework. If you want to be a performer, if you're looking to grab people's attention and educate them, then it's going to be a performance. If you're there, that you're hanging out with your buds and you're going to have a slug of whiskey out of an old wooden canteen and you guys are going to just enjoy the ambiance of a Civil War reenactment, then that's a whole different story. Then it doesn't matter. So the biggest advice I could give you there is just figure out why you're doing this. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be one or the other. There can be a mix, but you're going to be a very smart person to really pick one side of the fence, because that's going to tell you what your equipment's going to be, how specific and how careful you need to be about the information that you're giving, and and how hardcore you're going to be. Because if you've got a general audience that comes in from the state fair and you're going into detail about the points of carbon in the particular cavalry sword from this particular regiment, they're not there for that. They're pushing kids in dirty diapers. They're there for a corn dog. They're there to see something interesting and ride the Ferris wheel and take a quick walk through the historical section. So if you go being that detailed, you're missing the point of the audience that you're serving. Yeah?
Mark Goggins said, you should totally come to Illinois for one of our fairs. We'd love to meet you in person. Just make sure to bring your own steel if the mob controls the steel around here.
So, yeah. So there's been a couple of shows. I actually came to Illinois a couple of years ago. Where was I? I was outside of crapola. Where's John Deere at? Where's the John Deere headquarters? Moline. So we were not far from Moline. There was a steam and tractor club that I got to go up there to. A gentleman invited me up there, and it was a pretty nice event. I actually flew up there. It was nice. It was weird. It's a very different culture of white people. Like, it was very strange. Great. I mean, they were still farmers, but it was like half a step out of what I'm used to. So no draw, just a lot of corn, and your dirt's not red. Ugh. What else we got?
For BOR, says good to see you before and good to see you again.
Good. And that's FOR? BOR. Bore. Thank you. It's good to be back. We hadn't done this stuff in a long time, and to be honest with you, I mean, I love being in front of the camera. It's just everything else that comes with it that's a pain in the hind end. The editing is a nightmare. I mean, Miss K here has really gotten onto it, and it's been, yeah. So I'm getting back into the groove. I'm older, I'm fatter, and somehow even more handsome. But I'm not sure how that works, but I'm happy for it. Lots of makeup and liposuction, I suppose. But in fact, one of the reasons that, you guys, if you've been on Patreon, you've seen some of the Broom stuff that we've been doing. This is actually training for some of our new demonstrators. So I'm sure you guys have seen them, but I want to show these off. Man, check these out. I am so tickled with these. Back in the day at Andersonville, every now and then you would see these. These are really, I think they're considered more of an Appalachian type broom. I mean, this is big deal up in North and South Carolina at the John C. Campbell and Penland and places like that. But man, these always look so super fancy and so cool. And it was just, I just never had any experience with them, because where in God's name do you get broom corn? Now I had to order this, so. But we always had a need for this, because doing our fireplace sets, I remember the first fireplace set that I forged, I wanted a good broom, right? And like every other blacksmith, like would have to go buy like a crappy whisk, and then they tried to glue it on the metal handle. It was terrible. And Jay, when he did his fireplace sets, he actually sent them off to North Carolina to have them done with a nice broom on them. So and they were just absolutely stunning and beautiful. And in addition to the nice ironwork, having some other different media really kind of set it off. So to have an opportunity now to start doing some of this different work is really pretty freaking awesome, and not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I mean, this looks like incredibly complex and difficult. It's actually not. So. But I've always been fascinated with it. When I went to Los Angeles, good Lord, over, I guess, 15 years ago, I got to work beside another demonstrator named Little John and his wife. And he was a broom maker. And he sat there and he did these. And my first lessons about making these was there. And boy, it's been rough getting back in the groove. I've been trying to, learn enough about this to teach everybody else. And you never feel as stupid about something until you actually try to teach somebody else about it. Because in your brain, you're still trying to figure out how to do this right. And so, like, you feel like you're screwing it up. You kind of know you're screwing it up, and then you screw it up, and then you have to come up with either a good lie or some way to fix it or to save face when you're teaching somebody. So, but I'm pretty stoked with these. And in fact, the video where we did this one, this was the actual one that we did for the demonstration for that video, should be up next week. And we actually go into making this portion of the broom and then the actual woven handle. So this is just awesome stuff. And the whisk, it's awesome.
A. Williams says the green one is nice. And Adarig.
The Adarig Mist Runner. Yeah, that's her World of Warcraft name.
Great to participate in the live stream again. I'd rather miss these, but I get paid good news. And then Justin Goodman says he may be out of town, but middle of November there's an Ellaville night show, only an hour for me. They'd love to have you pop in just to meet Chris. Or I can
Wait. A knife show in Ellaville, Georgia, of all places? What? So Ellaville is kind of like Dickey. I mean, it's right north of Americus.
He said, or I can reach out to the organizer if you wanted to actually set up.
So I would be delighted. Please reach out. Please give them my contact information. And if my phone number should be on the website. But please, I would be, and that's, depending in November, I've got to do the Dothan show. So I need some dates, but please send me some contact information or have them reach out to me. I'll be glad to show up there if I could. I'd be glad to do a whole thing.
He said he was surprised too. The first one was last year. Rep asked, how long would you think one of those trick-weight brooms would last in the shop?
So, believe it or not, and again, if you didn't hear Miss K, Rep's asking how long would one of these last in the shop. So you make them a little bit tighter like this, and this is the broom corn that they use for a whisk broom. So they last just as long as a regular whisk broom. And I mean, I usually beef mine up a little bit more so they're a little bit thicker. So man, they're super awesome. They are not just for looks. How many folks we got?
18.
How about that? How about that?
It's been coming and going. We have 21, 22.
Sure. It's Sunday. Everybody needs to be out doing stuff. So.
We're right at half hour.
Well, that's a pretty good spot. Well, guys, if you got any other questions, go ahead and pop them in. But like I said, we got, again, it is sweltering down here. And even though I'm in front of the AC, I know it's getting a little warm out here in the garage. We hadn't quite sealed everything up. So if you guys got some final questions, go ahead and shoot them out there. But one of the things I'm going to be doing, hopefully, is I'm going to have a couple little videos about the broom making tools. So, you know, I know it's not blacksmithing, but really and truly, it is so suffocating hot out there. I wanted to jump out there and do some forge work, but we're having to really either get out there first thing in the morning or and even at 9 o'clock at night or when it's dark, it is still just suffocating. So we're going to try to get some forging in, but I'm trying to find a couple little palette cleansers before we get into the forging proper. So, yeah. Yeah. All right. Everybody satiated? Everybody good? Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Again, guys, I cannot tell you how good it is to see you. Mark, Spice, Goggin, all you guys, Atterig. You guys have been here for, good Lord, years at this point. And again, cannot tell you how much I appreciate you being here. I'm really looking forward to getting into this. You know, you guys have heard me complain about this before. I'm great at being in front of the camera. It's everything else that gets caught in the wheels of business. That's where Miss K is going to come in. And I don't think I've ever done a good job with Patreon. And even in the couple of weeks that Miss K's been working on it, man, has the difference been staggering. So I hopefully in these 4 months while we are going to be pushing hard to get these videos out, there should be a significant difference. And the good news is I'm not in charge of that end of it. Like I said, my job is to be in front of the camera and run my mouth, which is what I am good at. And the important things about engaging with you guys, getting stuff out, and coming up with cool events is no longer going to be my responsibility, which is the absolute best thing that could happen. So I'm very excited for it. So, but let's wrap it up there, guys. It is so good for you guys for being here. Thank you so much for being here. We'll have some more stuff going out, and just keep in touch with us. And outside of that, good to see you guys. Y'all take care. And that's where the camera's supposed to go out, right? You know. There's going to be a few technical issues. You know, it's like, you know, you're supposed to pause and smile. You know, just anytime now. You can stop the stream anytime now. Just, you know, anytime it's like, we're good. You know, the show's over. Everybody's ready to go home. You know, it's good. You know, curtains are falling. Shh. It's so good, it just can't be stopped. Is that it? Now she's just mashing buttons. Cut the power, cut the power. It works in the movies. Cut the power. Kill it, kill it, kill it. I do the back button and see if you can make it work. Why am I live again? No. Why am I live again? No.